Now, moving along here, I think I need to go to the kitchen and order some macaroni and cheese to go with the ham bone that's coming up here. Will Ross.
Yes!
I'll need it. But not to the stage without falling. That always bodes well.
Yeah, don't get hurt.
I'm gonna jump.
Break a leg.
It's not gonna fall.
No, break both legs.
That's how you know the show went really well.
Don't
So who's a fan of science here?
Yeah!
Good. That's a good
Fuck
start.
science, God for life.
If you're not a fan of science, for example, there was delicious alcohol over there. You might want to step out for a bit. Because it's going to get real in the most specific meaning of the word. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be rounding up the year in science as a way to kind of explain how important it is. We have a lot of ideas of, in general, what science is good for, but they tend to be practical. If there's no practical to it, we don't really look at it. And so that's what I'm going to be explaining in my essay here, A Boner Full of Science. No. It's all me. On the year 2012 and the changes it brings. Now, I'm a writer and a self-admitted science nerd. From a very young age, I tormented my parents with the word why, and I was never willing to take no for an answer. I was also constantly curious, always reading, investigating, and trying to figure out whatever specific nonsense I had become temporarily obsessed with. A few decades and some mental illness diagnoses later, it turns out I'm bipolar with some severe ADHD, and my curiosity was less the product of an overactive scientific mind, and more the product of a mind that was constantly chemically bored and prone to flights of fancy. But I'm still glad it happened like it did. My parents and books answered the why questions that deserved answers, excluding why do I have to clean my room, to which sufficient scientific answer has never been satisfactorily explained to me. And the end result, about 3 daily pills later, is a mind with a deep fascination with why. And that's basically all science is, an organized method of answering that question. So today, I'm going to give you the why for the why science is so important, and I'll be doing it by rounding up what science has done this year to improve the human condition, and maybe give you some hints as to where we're going next. So here's the 2012 roundup of what science has accomplished in this single trip around the sun. Starting with, Nathan Silver proves that statistics, like God, don't particularly care if you believe in them. People used to say statistics mean nothing. You show me a statistic that says one thing, I'll show you one that says another thing. Now when they say that, they're responded to with 2 beautiful words. Do so. After the election, the theory, I'll show you another poll, therefore XYZ, just doesn't fly anymore, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. The political denial of mathematics and science when they run counter to what the politician in question wants to believe has to die out, and it's starting to. The man most responsible for this, in my opinion, is Nate Silver, an American statistician blogging for the New York Times 538 election blog, where he got his start in baseball prediction. After selling his baseball system, he moved on to elections and did, well, let's just say pretty well. He correctly predicted 49 out of 50 states in 2008, which would be the high score if he had predicted 50 out of 50 states in the District of Columbia in 2012. And he did it in about the simplest way you could imagine. He aggregated. He didn't develop a new poll. He took everyone's polls in and turned them into a super poll with massive amounts of data inside it. Basically, he pulled the polls. There was deeper science in his selection of how to highly rate individual polls, but the only real magic in this method was taking all the data together and looking at it as a single tapestry, as opposed to looking for the polls he wanted to see and choosing the ones that best fit what he wanted to happen. And that's all there was. The magic of saying, I'll show you one that says another is, okay, I'll look at that too. Inspect his scientific process and throw it into my pile of data to improve the model. Thanks. And he put his theory up to scientific test, in this case the presidential election, that it passed handily. Statistics and the associated patterns behind them do mean something. And Nate Silver proved that it's foolhardy to believe anything else. Now don't get me wrong, math won't always predict the future. But when the math screams at you, you are going to lose an election. 2012 was probably the last year where we'll say, well, Fox News doesn't seem to think so. And in the realm of predictions working out, Europe found the Higgs boson. Now, if you know a single story from 2012, it's the European Union discovered the Higgs boson, or science discovered the Higgs boson, if you're an American like me, because frankly they scooped us, and it's a little fucking embarrassing. As I'm sure you've heard about it, so I won't spend much time here. The Higgs boson is a particle we've known existed for about over 40 years, and it gives things mass. Finding it where it should be adds evidence to the standard model of particle physics. That's a good thing. That's not what I like about it, though. What this discovery shows you is that science is not all slapdash and jury-rigging and accidentally creating black holes and dinosaurs and crops that eat faces. We spent trillions of dollars and 48 years to prove some shit we already knew. Because until we can do that, we're not fucking done. That is how science rolls. And when science has a good idea, they keep hammering it. Even when the results don't happen for a year, or 5 years, or 10 years.
Just like my bedroom.
Exactly. You just keep going until something comes out of it. Although there have been some retractions from your bedroom lately. Which was the case with stem cells. Also in his bedroom. What we've been able to do with stem cells in 2012 is nothing short of miraculous. And I use that word as clinically as possible. In mice, we've been able to repair multiple sclerosis. This is all 2012 that I mentioned. I'm not mentioning general trends. These are just things that happened this year. We've been able to repair multiple sclerosis, use genetically engineered stem cells to seek and destroy HIV, increase longevity, and even grow highly specialized tissue like sweat glands. And it's been even better for humans. This year we made strides in easing degenerative blindness using stem cells. American scientists have repaired damaged heart tissue. And Israeli scientists have actually grown heart tissue, because they always apparently had to show us up. In Sweden, they've even created and transplanted replacement veins. We've learned how to grow kidney tissue and bone. We've even learned that stem cells can reduce organ rejection in transplanted organs. In short, stem cells made a lot of promises 10 years ago. And they're fucking delivering. But another promise that was made 10 years ago is also fucking delivering. And unfortunately, it's global climate change. Frankly, there is a lot of bad news about global warming, and if I listed the studies, it would pretty much give you all a major sad and kind of ruin my set. So let's leave it at there is a lot of bad news. However, the cool thing about science is anything we break on accident, we can fix on purpose. And that's where the good news comes in. We are ready to solve it, and in ways that are much more palatable to the center and right than we might have even expected. It won't be just a matter of using yet less, but using better and with higher value to cost ratios. But the first step in doing this is also the biggest, best news in global warming as far as Americans are concerned. In 2012, 70% of the American population believes in global warming. That means more Americans finally believe in global warming than believe in ghosts. Finally! Exactly! And that's literally finally. And that's a statistic any science fan can get behind. When you ask is global warming man-made, that number goes down quite a bit. But honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't particularly care where people think the phenomenon is coming from, as long as they understand that the solutions to it must be man-made. If you accept that there's a problem that requires solutions, you're close enough for government work. And that's okay. Literally. Moving forward, though, studies this year have shown that renewable energy can theoretically cover about 80% of our energy needs by 2050. And that wind power could theoretically cover all of our energy needs. So there are ways to lower our usage without lowering our standard of living, which has always been the problem between environmentalists and non-environmentalists.
That's hippie talk.
Exactly. Hippie talk. But it gets cool. In 2012, we developed new plastics that trap huge amounts of CO2, which is one of the more potent greenhouse gases, and artificial leaves that can actually mimic photosynthesis. That means we can make artificial trees that soak up CO2 better than actual trees. We've also found that certain algae blooms can eat more than their fair share of carbon, thanks to a geoengineering experiment of dubious legality. Basically, somebody dumped a bunch of iron phosphate, I think, into the ocean where they were told not to see if it worked, and it did. But that's not good science, but it worked. But we could grow it in man-made pools, for example, and then turn the algae into biofuels, which still leaves a lot of trapped carbon because using biofuel still re-releases that. But 2012 has you covered there too. An MIT study from this year says we can store about 100 years worth of greenhouse gases safely underground. And again, this isn't the Republicans, this is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is a reasonable stopgap until we develop better solutions. And if we don't want to do that, we can actually just fire heavily shielded barrels of CO2 or any other nasty stuff we want to straight into our own solar trash burner, the sun, using the same technology that makes railguns possible. So we're the problem, but we're often the solution. And as fantastic as that all is, there's basically reasonable engineering solutions. As long as we all agree there's an issue, then the sky's the limit. But beyond the sky, 2012 brought us the privatization of space travel.
Yeah.